Hello, everyone. Craig Diamond here, editor of 10 Stock Trader, with another edition of Diamond's Edge. And two things this week: inflation and Nvidia earnings. I'm going to start here with bonds. This is TLT. And, I've been saying really since September, when the Federal Reserve first cut interest rates, that they're making a mistake. And the bond market is telling us that. You can see how TLT has continued to drop. And, we saw this catch up with stocks last week. A complete reversal from the, after the post-election rally. So what I'm looking for next is, okay, so we have here, this is back in April of 2024. This is all going back to October of 2023. These were the lows in stocks and bonds. Now you can see here that TLT, whether it's down here towards the 87 level, all the way down to the 82 level, stocks and bonds aren't going to top out the exact same time or bottom around the exact same time. But what the bond market is saying is that inflation is not over. And Jerome Powell had a comment last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, that it might be signaling growth. Well, you don't have growth when you have 800,000 jobs that suddenly disappear over the last year. You don't have growth when you have, complete miss on jobs numbers from the private sector, and the only actual strong growth is in the government sector. So I don't know where he's getting that from, but the bond market, I don't believe is signaling that. It's signaling inflation. We saw CPI last week come in higher. We saw PPI last week come in higher. We saw import prices come in higher. Everywhere you look, inflation is sticky. So this could be another moment where, they get it wrong again. They thought inflation was transitory after what they did with COVID. Horrible mistake. And we have something similar here again. So it's going to take a while for the market to get through the inflationary phase that we're in, years actually. And so I think, that's going to lead to volatility. We're seeing that we have more inflation numbers the end of this week. But let me get to the big kahuna, which is Nvidia. And I just want to highlight a couple of things here. So I highlighted this to 10 Stock Trader subscribers this morning. This is sort of just kind of the base case. It's volatile, but we chop around. We get some dips, maybe a rally afterwards, and then, some more volatility. Still be volatile, but within the uptrend within Nvidia. That's fair enough, okay? This is where things get really interesting. And here's a weekly chart of Nvidia that I want to show you. And what I'm looking at here, okay, so this is a long-term chart going back to, call it 2020, okay? This is its first leg up. Yeah, there's the first leg up in a 1, 2, and then I subdivided this out, and I can zoom in here for you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, this is a tricky fourth wave, okay? And we've kind of seen this weird price action in Nvidia. But what I have here is labeled as an A, and then last week marked the top of a B. Now, if this is the worst case scenario, and again, this is worst case, we could be looking at anywhere from a 20 to 30% decline in Nvidia. I know might sound crazy. Again, this is the worst case. But also look down here. We have the composite index with a third lower high. This is usually a very bearish setup when we have prices making higher highs. Okay. You can also see the divergence here on the RSI. All right. But also let me show you SMH. So SMH is the semiconductor sector, the ETF, and this has been a leader for a long time. And you can see here that it has not, so this is after the election, it hasn't even come close to making new highs above that July high before this first scare. Okay. The Dow made a new high, the NASDAQ made a new high, the S&P made a new high. So when I see the semiconductor sector, which is a leader, not make a new high, that, has kept me from being wildly bullish. So what could we have happen? If we take into account the worst case scenario for Nvidia, that means we're probably looking at a C wave here. This is down here, back around the start of this August low. And again, that's a 15 to 20% move. So obviously that, again, is the worst case scenario. Maybe it would catch a lot of people by surprise, but it's a scenario that I can't rule out. So Nvidia on Wednesday after the close is going to be important. And then we have inflation. Here's something else to figure out, or to consider rather. So let's say Nvidia is within line, maybe a little small miss, maybe it reports a little bit better. We kind of have that, initial volatility that we said. But what if inflation continues to come higher? Okay, bonds continue to drop, stocks react like they did last week, and we have another sell-off. That's also something to consider. So, regardless of what happens, I'm looking forward to volatility. We saw that happen last week. We should see a continuation of it this week. And that's what I'm focused on this week, inflation and Nvidia. Thank you very much. I'll see you next week.